Eala, the phenomenon. We didn't know, largely, the tennis community a year ago before her run in Miami, and now it's must-see TV and drawing maybe the biggest crowds anyone outside of Alcaraz Center and the like.
She represents the Philippines, which is a country with more than 100 million people, but doesn't have a lot of history in tennis, and she's really leaned into it.
There is a moment from early 2026 that tells you everything you need to know about where women's tennis currently stands, and where it is failing to keep up with its own story. When Alexandra Eala played the Dubai Tennis Championships in February 2026, she sold out every single match. Not some matches. Every one. The tournament recorded a 48% attendance spike, a number so significant that the tournament director stepped in front of cameras and publicly admitted he had never witnessed anything like it in the entire history of the event. The official response from the tour? Silence. No feature. No front page push. No acknowledgement that a 20-year-old had just done something no player, man or woman, had done before in that tournament's history. She made history on court, off court, and apparently in the merchandise lines as well. And the organization, whose entire commercial future depends on moments exactly like this one, looked the other way. The contrast does not require any editorial framing to land. At the Australian Open, Aryna Sabalenka's pre-tournament press conference drew 9,000 views on YouTube. Eala's drew 196,000. Not a rounding error. Not a statistical anomaly. 21 times the audience. For a press conference. Before a single ball had been struck. The market has been speaking clearly and consistently for over a year now. The question is no longer whether Eala is generating extraordinary interest. The question is how much longer an institution can afford to respond to extraordinary interest with institutional silence, and what it says about the sport's priorities that it keeps choosing to try.
She's so gracious, she's so humble, she's so grounded. And when they interviewed her afterwards, of course, after the match they interview her, and she's just the most beautiful soul.
Nearly twice the views of Novak Djokovic. 6 times those of Carlos Alcaraz. And the tournament that Djokovic himself described as having a good problem because of Eala's crowd still assigned her a small outer court at the Australian Open, where fans queued hundreds of yards outside just to get close. Her jersey sold out before the ink had dried. Her Nike Sampaguita shirt, designed around her Filipino roots, vanished the moment it was released. At Indian Wells, the 5th Grand Slam, hundreds of fans ignored Carlos Alcaraz practicing on the adjacent court to crowd around Eala's practice session instead. The numbers are screaming something. The WTA cannot seem to handle it. And honestly, that is the most revealing part of this entire story. It started with one wild card entry that changed absolutely everything. The run that rewrote everything. Katie Volinets was supposed to be a comfortable first-round exit, a warm-up match for a teenager still finding her footing on the WTA circuit. Eala dispatched her cleanly and moved into the draw with a quiet confidence that did not yet register as a threat to anyone watching. Then came Jelena Ostapenko, ranked 130 places above Eala at the time, a 2017 French Open champion with the kind of ball striking that dismantles defensive players before they settle. Eala won in straight sets, 7-6, 7-5. 2 tiebreaks, both closed out under pressure. That result turned a few heads. What happened next turned the entire sport around. Madison Keys, world number 5, reigning Australian Open champion. Eala beat her 6-4, 6-2, straight sets, dominant. The scoreline was not a fluke. She controlled the rally patterns and punished the second serve so cleanly that Keys never once found a foothold. Paula Badosa withdrew before the quarterfinals, handing a walkover. Some would later use that to undercut the narrative. The quarterfinal removed any space for that argument. Swiatek, world number 3 at the time, 6-time Grand Slam champion, the defining force in women's tennis for the better part of 3 years. Eala beat her 6-2, 7-5. Not a stolen match, not a lucky afternoon, a controlled, tactically precise performance in which a 19-year-old from Quezon City outplayed the best player on the planet on one of the biggest stages in the sport. Jessica Pegula ended Eala's run in the semifinals 7-6, 5-7, 6-3, after Eala battled through an ankle injury mid-match. Even Pegula, fresh off reaching her first Miami final, made a point of saying, She's a really good tennis player. Goes for her shots, takes the ball early, competes really well. We're definitely going to see enough of her. That semifinal exit earned Eala 390 WTA ranking points, over $330,000 in prize money, and something no points tally can begin to quantify: a nation of over 100 million people who suddenly had a reason to follow women's tennis. She became the first player from the Philippines to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, the first to enter the WTA World Top 100. Those two first sound clean on paper. What they actually unlocked was a cultural earthquake the sport had no framework to contain. The rest of 2025, the momentum did not slow. In July, for her Wimbledon debut, Nike gifted Eala a hair tie designed in the form of a sampaguita blossom, the national flower of the Philippines. Nike confirmed it was a one-off gift, not for commercial sale. That single gesture, a tiny white flower on a hair tie, went viral across Southeast Asia. Not because of the brand, because of what it meant to a country that had never before had a player at that level of the sport. At Eastbourne in late June, Eala came agonizingly close to her first WTA title, falling to Australia's Maya Joint in a nail-biting final after holding 4 match points in the deciding tiebreak. For match points, she could not convert any of them. The loss brought her to tears at the net. It was one of the more painful moments of her young career, and paradoxically it made her more beloved. Fans do not only follow winners, they follow people who fight and feel things. In August, Nike released an Eala-inspired limited edition shirt, designed by Filipino artist Georgina Canis, featuring the national flower of the Philippines overlaid on the grass courts of the All England Club. It sold out not in the way a moderately popular athlete's merchandise sells, but in the way a cultural moment sells. There was no restock announcement. It was simply gone. Later that year, Eala became the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam main draw match in the Open era, defeating Clara Tauson in the first round of the U.S. Open, playing near the Queens neighborhood of New York known as Little Manila. The crowd at Grandstand Court treated it like a home tournament. A Philippine flag in the front row. Tagalog chants echoing through a New York evening. A 19-year-old making history in a neighborhood that felt, for one night, as though it had been built for exactly this. She then captured gold in women's singles at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games in Thailand in December. By the time the year closed, her ranking sat at number 50. 12 months earlier, she had been number 140, playing qualifiers and scrambling for wild cards. 2026, a crowd management problem. The new year opened with a different kind of problem. Not a tennis problem, a crowd management problem. At the Australian Open in January, thousands of Filipino supporters descended on Melbourne Park, creating a logjam outside Court 6 and a queue that stretched several hundred yards through the grounds. Tournament staff had not anticipated it. The match had been assigned to a smaller outer court, a scheduling decision based on ranking logic, not cultural reality. Fans who could not get inside stood outside and listened. Some watched through gaps in the barriers. The Philippine Women's Open, the first WTA tournament ever held in the Philippines, had its final sellout before Eala had even confirmed her participation. Read that again. Tickets for a final were gone before the headliner confirmed she was playing. The WTA had announced the tournament largely because of Eala's breakout. Manila was the market. She was the market. In Abu Dhabi, former Australian number 1 Daria Gavrilova posted on social media, "Alexandra Eala is selling out stadiums whether she's playing singles or doubles. Tournaments where fan attendance wasn't that high in previous years. If I was a tournament director, I would do anything to have her at my tournament." That observation deserves to sit for a moment. Eala was selling out doubles matches. Doubles, a format most WTA events struggle to fill a third of the seats for, at venues that had historically posted modest attendance numbers. The commercial logic was undeniable, and yet the tour's institutional response remained curiously, conspicuously muted. Dubai and the 48%, then came Dubai, and the number that stopped the sports business world in its tracks. For her opening match at the Dubai Tennis Championships, fans arrived as early as 11 a.m. for a 7 p.m. start on center court. The organizers confirmed her debut was a complete sellout. The women's week of the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships recorded a 48% year-on-year jump in total ticket sales. All her matches had packed stands. Even the two semifinals didn't have that kind of crowd. The final had a full house, of course, but Eala's matches were massive. That's the ticket everyone wanted, one official confirmed. Tournament director Sulla Talak went further. Alexandra Eala was a brilliant addition to the field. She attracted a new demographic to the tennis, and the stadium was sold out for all her matches. People were desperately trying to get tickets, but they were all gone. We've never seen anything like it. From a tournament director who has run one of the most prestigious WTA 1000 events on the calendar for years. That is not promotional language. That is a man genuinely trying to describe something his experience had no reference point for. A veteran sports photographer covering the event told College Times, "I haven't seen packed stadiums at this tournament since the days of Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal, when those legends used to play here." Federer, Djokovic, Nadal. That is the company her crowd draw was being compared to, not other WTA players. The three biggest draws in the history of professional tennis. On court, Eala defeated world number 7 Jasmine Paolini 6-1, 7-6 before losing to Coco Gauff in the quarterfinals. Gauff, typically the fan favorite at any event she plays, walked to the microphone after the match and addressed the crowd directly. "I know you are mostly supporting Alex, but I have to say it's great to be on a crowded court. I've played this tournament for many years, and to see the stadium full means a lot. I'd like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport." Gauff thanked her opponent's fan base at a post-match press conference after winning. That sentence should not be glossed over. It captures something specific and significant about what Eala has done to the atmosphere at WTA events. Indian Wells confirms it in 2026. Indian Wells confirmed this was not a regional phenomenon. On the courts adjacent to Eala's Tuesday practice session were Alexander Zverev and Taylor Fritz, a Southern California native and former BNP Paribas Open champion. They attracted a handful of spectators. Eala drew hundreds into the midday Palm Springs heat for a practice session. Not a match, a practice. Her day-in-the-life video posted to the BNP Paribas Open's official YouTube channel became the tournament's most viewed content of the entire 2026 event, and it was not close. Indian Wells posted 9 women on Instagram as its class of 2026, 7 top, 10 players, 1 well-known American, and Eala. She was not in the top 10. She was ranked 31st. But the tournament understood something important that the ranking system does not capture. Ranking and drawing power are not the same metric. Eala's presence in the draw moved tickets in ways that several top 10 players simply did not. A Filipino-American fan who drove 2 hours from Los Angeles told Front Office Sports, "I've been coming to this tournament for 10 years. This is the most Filipinos I've ever seen here." More than 10 million Filipinos live outside the Philippines, approximately 1.7 million in California alone. Indian Wells sits directly in the middle of that geography. The numbers were not coincidental. They were structural. Eala did not simply attract Filipino fans. She mobilized a diaspora that had been waiting for precisely this kind of athlete, one of their own, competing at the highest level, week after week, on courts the whole world watches. She reached the 4th round at Indian Wells before falling to Linda Noskova. The result pushed her to a career-high world ranking of 29, achieved on March 16, 2026, the highest ranking ever recorded by a Filipino player in WTA history. Why the institution struggled to keep up the honest answer is the speed of it. The WTA is a tour built on gradual ascent. Players develop over years, build fan bases incrementally, earn their scheduling slots through consistent results accumulated across multiple seasons. Eala compressed that entire timeline into roughly 12 months. She went from wild card to seeded player, from outer courts to Stadium 1, from an unknown name on a draw sheet to the most commercially valuable non-top 10 player on the tour, before her 21st birthday. The scheduling miscalculation at the Australian Open, placing her on a small outer court and inadvertently creating a crowd safety situation, was not malice. It was institutional lag. The infrastructure had not caught up with reality. By Dubai, Tournament directors were clearly ahead of it. By Indian Wells, the tour itself was featuring her on promotional materials alongside players ranked 20 spots above her. Eala framed it herself with characteristic clarity. I seriously noticed it was coming. People were really coming. They were buying tickets, taking time out of their day. I saw videos after my matches, the lines, the people, and I was really surprised. I think I was a little in denial at first, but every week they just kept coming. That denial is telling. She was not manufacturing this. She was not working a crowd strategy or leaning into a persona engineered for virality. She was playing tennis, winning matches against Grand Slam champions, and a nation decided to follow. The sold-out jerseys, the Nike collaborations, the 48% ticket spikes, all of it followed the authenticity, not the other way around. The Pacquiao parallel journalist, TJ Manitok, who has covered Filipino sport for decades, put it plainly. The country has been hungry for the next Manny Pacquiao. When he was at his peak, life stopped. When there was a fight, nothing moved. Everyone was watching. Pacquiao retired. Carlos Eala won Olympic gold in gymnastics at Paris 2024 and gave the country a brief, joyful surge of national pride. But tennis, a global, year-round, televised sport with events on 6 continents, offers something fundamentally different. It offers a calendar. Fans do not wait months between moments. They follow a tour. And right now, that tour has Eala on it every other week, selling out venues and making history in a sport that 2 years ago had never heard her name. Where things stand, her record against top 10 players at the time of those matches stands at 4-3. She has beaten Swiatek, Keys, Paolini, and Goff. She reached a WTA final before her 20th birthday. She won a WTA 125 title. She made the 4th round of 3 consecutive major tournaments. She became the first Filipino in recorded WTA history to accomplish every single one of those things. The jersey sold out. The stadium sold out. The WTA's carefully managed narrative about who drives this sport's growth got complicated, in the best possible way.